Nina was only 8 years old when her mother, Evelyn, remarried. Her new stepfather, Gerald, was a man of charm in public, but a tyrant in private. He had a smile that deceived the world, but behind closed doors, his eyes darkened with something menacing. From the very beginning, he made it clear that the house belonged to him, and everything in it, including Nina, was under his control. At first, his cruelty was subtle. He ignored her presence at the dinner table, making her feel invisible while showering Evelyn with affection. If she spoke out of turn, he would shoot her a cold, warning glance. Soon, small slaps replaced words. Then the punishments escalated. One evening, Nina accidentally spilled juice on the carpet. Gerald's expression turned to stone.
"Clumsy little brat,"
he muttered. Before she could react, his hand cracked across her face. The pain stung, but worse was the humiliation. Evelyn sat frozen, her fork clutched in her trembling hand, her eyes flickering between Nina and Gerald. But she said nothing. Later that night, Nina crept into her mother's room, tears still burning her cheeks.
"Mommy, why does he hate me?"
she whispered. Evelyn sighed and pulled her daughter close, smoothing her hair.
"He doesn't hate you, sweetheart. He's just under stress. You need to try harder to be good."
The words hit Nina harder than the slap. She realized, in that moment, that no one was coming to save her. The real horrors began when Evelyn worked late. Gerald would call Nina into the living room under the guise of talking. He would ask her to sit next to him on the couch, his touch lingering too long on her shoulder. His voice was low, almost a whisper.
"You know, you're lucky I take care of you. Without me, where would you be?"
His breath smelled of alcohol and something sour. Every night, Nina prayed for an escape. She fantasized about running away, but where would she go? Who would believe her? Gerald had already warned her.
"If you ever tell your mother, she won't believe you. She loves me, not you."
Nina tried. Again and again, she hinted at her suffering, hoping Evelyn would see what was happening. But Evelyn only saw what she wanted to see.
"Don't lie about your stepfather,"
she scolded one evening when Nina refused to sit near him.
"He's trying his best to care for you. Be grateful."
Nina wanted to scream, but she learned to stay silent. It was safer that way. The nights were the worst. She would lie in bed, curled up like a wounded animal, praying Gerald wouldn't come into her room.
Some nights he did. Some nights he didn't.
But the fear never left her. As the years passed, Nina stopped trying to speak out. She carried her pain in silence, knowing there was no one to rescue her. The house became her prison, and Gerald her warden. Her only solace was school. Books became her escape, and she poured herself into her studies with a desperate focus. If she could just excel, if she could just get good enough grades, she could leave. She could be free. And so, she waited for the day she could finally run and never look back. Nina grew up determined to escape the life that had been forced upon her. She threw herself into her studies, using books as a means of survival. Despite the torment at home, she excelled academically and earned a scholarship to a prestigious university, a place far away from Gerald and Evelyn. The night before she left for college, Gerald cornered her in the kitchen. His breath reeked of alcohol, his eyes glinting with malice.
"You think you're better than me now? Running away won't change what you are, what I made you."
He grabbed her wrist, his grip tightening. Nina yanked her hand free, her heart pounding.
"You don't own me,"
she hissed for the first time, standing up to him. For a moment, he looked startled, then smirked.
"We'll see how long you last on your own."
She didn't look back when she left the house the next morning. For the first time, she was free, physically at least. But the memories still clung to her like shadows, refusing to let her go. At university, she poured herself into her studies, often staying up all night in the library. The silence of the bookshelves became her refuge, a place where she could exist without fear. But the ghosts of her past haunted her in the form of nightmares, cold hands grabbing her wrists, whispers of "you'll never be free" echoing in the dark. One evening, as she walked back to her dorm after a late-night study session, she heard footsteps behind her. Panic surged through her veins. She turned sharply, her breath coming in short gasps. It was just a fellow student heading in the same direction, but Nina still sprinted the rest of the way to her room, locking the door behind her. She sank to the floor, her hands shaking. No matter how far she ran, the fear was still inside her. Determined not to let the past dictate her future, she took on extra coursework, filling every moment with studying or part-time jobs. She rarely socialized, avoiding campus parties or events where alcohol flowed freely. The smell reminded her too much of Gerald. During one lecture, her professor called on her unexpectedly, and she froze. The eyes of her classmates were on her, waiting. Her heart pounded, her mind flashing back to Gerald's cruel taunts. She forced herself to take a breath and answered the question with a steady voice. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. By the time she graduated with honors, she had mastered the art of control. She carried herself with confidence, her head held high. No one saw the broken girl inside, the one still haunted by a childhood stolen from her. She had escaped Gerald's house, but she had yet to escape the prison of her own mind. Nina built an empire. She became a renowned entrepreneur, owning a chain of successful businesses. People admired her intelligence, her resilience, and her beauty. But beneath her poised exterior, she was a woman afraid to let anyone in. Over the years, several men tried to win her heart, but she found reasons to push them away.
"You're not my priority,"
she would say.
"I'm focused on my work."
But then she met Daniel. Daniel was different. A kind-hearted man, a pastor with a soft voice and a patient soul. He didn't push. He didn't demand. He simply stayed, proving with time that not all men were monsters. Still, Nina hesitated. How could she trust him? How could she believe in love when her own mother had abandoned her for a man? One evening, Daniel invited her to a church gathering. She almost declined, but something in his eyes made her agree. As they sat in the candlelit sanctuary, a woman stood up to share her testimony of pain, betrayal, and eventually, healing. The words struck Nina like a blade. Later that night, she found herself trembling outside Daniel's house. When he opened the door, she broke down, sobbing in his arms.
"I don't know how to let go,"
she whispered. Daniel held her close, his voice gentle.
"You don't have to do it alone."
Determined to try, Nina started attending more church meetings. She observed how Daniel spoke to others, with kindness, patience, and wisdom. One evening, as they sat on a park bench, he shared his own struggles, his own scars. He said,
"We all have wounds, but healing starts with trust."
For the first time, Nina let him hold her hand without pulling away. It was a small step, but a step nonetheless. Weeks turned into months, and Daniel remained consistent. One afternoon, they visited a children's shelter together. Watching the kids laugh and play, unburdened by the past, something in Nina's heart cracked open. Later that night, she sat in bed, staring at her phone, her finger hovering over a contact she had long ignored, her mother's. Could she ever truly forgive? Could she finally break free? She didn't have the answers yet, but for the first time, she wanted to try. Daniel saw the pain that Nina carried. He knew that she had closed her heart to her past, but he also knew that true healing only came with release.
"You don't forgive for them.
He told her one evening.
You forgive for yourself, so that their grip on you finally breaks."
The idea of seeing Evelyn and Gerald again sickened Nina. Yet, Daniel's words clung to her heart. Hadn't she suffered enough? Why should she still carry the burden of their sins? After much prayer and reflection, she agreed to meet them, on her terms. When she finally stood before them, they looked older, more fragile. Evelyn wept, apologizing for all the years she had turned a blind eye. Gerald, once so cruel and powerful, was a mere shadow of himself. He confessed the reasons behind his unkindness towards Nina. He said he was insecure of his wife's attention to her daughter.
"I felt at a point that you will one day leave me and give all the attention to Nina. That is what my ex-wife did to me, and it shuttered me,"
he said.
"Nonetheless,"
he added,
This is not enough excuse or reason to maltreat my stepdaughter. I have grown to understand that I was just being unwise. My daughter, please have mercy that our God will forgive me too. I want to have peaceful rest.
Again, her mother burst out in tears and said,
Forgive me, Nina, my only child. I have been a careless mother all these times. I neglected you and refused to share in your pain. I was scared to lose Gerald because of how helpful he was to us. I was willing to ignore all his wicked actions and stay with him for us. It's all my fault. Oh God, have mercy. Nina, I'm sorry.
For a long moment, Nina said nothing. Then she took a deep breath.
I don't hate you anymore.
She said, her voice steady.
But I also don't need you in my life. I forgive you, but I will never forget.
Evelyn sobbed, reaching for her daughter, but Nina stepped back.
This isn't for you,
she said softly.
This is for me.
And with that, she walked away, not with bitterness, but with peace. She returned to Daniel, the man who had shown her that love didn't have to hurt. In his embrace, she found safety. In his love, she found healing. For the first time in her life, she was truly free. Kumasi, often referred to as the cultural heartbeat of Ghana, pulsed with life. The city's streets teemed with activity, from the bustling Kajisha market to the serene courtyards of artisans honing their craft. In the midst of this vibrant setting lived Alma and Kwesi, two individuals whose lives, though different in nature, were destined to intertwine. Alma was the embodiment of creativity, her personality as vibrant as the hues of her paint palette. Her studio, a modest yet colorful space in the heart of Kumasi, was adorned with Adinkra symbols in various stages of creation. Each design told a story: Eben for safety, Eben Kiinkium for life's journey, and Dwaf for cleanliness and nurturing. Alma's art wasn't merely decorative, it was her way of preserving the Akan people's cultural identity. She found immense joy in the act of creation, often singing traditional songs as she worked. To Alma, each Adinkra symbol was a bridge to the past, a testament to the wisdom of her ancestors. She infused her work with her spirited nature, ensuring that every piece resonated with warmth and emotion. Her art not only connected her to her heritage, but also served as a beacon for others, celebrating unity, love, and resilience. Kwesi, in contrast, was a quiet and meticulous historian, deeply engrossed in the academic world. He spent his days buried in ancient texts and oral histories, unraveling the myths and legends of Ghana's past. For him, the past was a reservoir of untainted knowledge, where every story and artifact provided clarity and order. His favorite haunt was the Manhaya Palace Museum, where he often researched the legacy of the Ashanti Kingdom. The museum's cool, dimly lit halls felt like a refuge, a place where the noise of the present couldn't intrude. Kwesi's work was his solace, and he found beauty in uncovering the intricacies of history that others often overlooked. Despite their differences, Alma and Kwesi's lives intersected frequently. Kumasi's artistic and academic communities often converged during cultural festivals, lectures, or art exhibitions. Alma's exuberance would light up a room, her laughter drawing smiles even from the most serious faces. Kwesi, typically reserved, would find himself reluctantly drawn into her orbit, though he often dismissed her enthusiasm as frivolous. To Alma, Kwesi was an enigma. She teased him for being overly serious, dubbing him the human history book. Yet, she couldn't deny the intrigue he sparked within her. There was a depth to Kwesi that piqued her curiosity, a quiet strength that stood in stark contrast to her vivacious nature. Kwesi, on the other hand, found Alma both exasperating and fascinating. He couldn't understand how someone could live so untethered by rules and structure, yet he admired her ability to infuse joy and meaning into everything she touched. Though he often masked his admiration with pointed remarks, he felt a strange pull toward her, a feeling he couldn't quite explain. Their interactions were a delicate dance of contrasts. At cultural events, they often found themselves in playful arguments. Alma would passionately defend the importance of expression, while Kwesi countered with the need for preserving accuracy and historical context. Their debates, though heated, were laced with an undercurrent of mutual respect. Unbeknownst to them, their differences were merely facets of the same whole. Beneath the surface of their playful clashes lay the beginnings of a bond that neither could yet articulate, a bond that, like the Adinkra symbols Alma cherished, would one day tell its own timeless story. It was a warm, golden afternoon in Kumasi when Alma decided to clean the cluttered corners of her studio, an endeavor she rarely undertook. As she sifted through old brushes, fabric scraps, and wooden stamps, her fingers brushed against a peculiar object buried beneath a pile of dusty cloth. She uncovered an intricately carved Adinkra stamp, its surface worn smooth by time, but still bearing the unmistakable design of two birds intertwined. The artistry was exquisite. The birds' bodies formed a seamless loop, their heads turned toward each other in an eternal embrace. Their wings were intricately detailed, symbolizing strength and protection, while the flowing curves of their tails suggested unity and harmony. Alma stared at the stamp, her heart inexplicably stirred. She couldn't recall ever using or even seeing this particular symbol in her collection before. Its beauty and mystery captivated her, and she felt an inexplicable pull toward it, as though the symbol held a message meant solely for her. That night, as the city of Kumasi fell into its usual rhythm of nighttime stillness, Alma carefully placed the stamp on her work table and retired to bed. Exhausted yet restless, she closed her eyes, her thoughts lingering on the intertwined birds. In her dreams, Alma found herself transported to a realm unlike any she had ever known. The skies shimmered with hues of gold and indigo, and the air carried a melodic hum that felt ancient and divine. Before her stood Niam, the supreme deity of the Akan people, radiating an aura of wisdom and power. Niam's voice was both thunderous and soothing, like the echo of a river. "Alma," the deity said, "you have found a symbol of profound significance. The intertwined birds represent soulmates, two beings, different in nature, yet destined to create harmony together. They mirror the truth that unity is not born of sameness, but of embracing and balancing differences." As Niam spoke, the celestial sky transformed, showing Alma images of the intertwined birds in motion. They danced together in perfect rhythm, their movements creating ripples of light that spread across the heavens. The deity continued, "Though gold is precious, unity is even more so. You and another soul are like these birds, contrasting, yet bound by a shared destiny. Your union has the power to bring balance and inspire others." Alma's heart swelled with emotion. As the vision faded, she felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. The god's words resonated deeply, and though Niam hadn't named the other half of her destined pair, Alma knew who it was. When she woke, the first rays of dawn illuminated her studio, casting light on the forgotten stamp. Alma picked it up, running her fingers over the intertwined birds, her mind brimming with clarity and determination. "This is not just a design," she whispered to herself. "It's a sign, a story waiting to unfold." Alma decided to let the intertwined bird symbol guide her actions. She began weaving it into her new artwork, on textiles and carvings, and even as patterns in her paintings. Each piece carried the symbol subtly but purposefully, its meaning waiting to be discovered by the observant. Her hope was simple yet profound, that Kwesi, with his analytical mind and deep appreciation for symbolism, would recognize the motif. She believed that the design, and the message it carried, would resonate with him as profoundly as it had with her. Alma also found herself inspired in unexpected ways. Her work took on new layers of depth, blending vibrant creativity with a quiet sense of longing. She started to view her arguments with Kwesi in a different light, not as disagreements, but as opportunities to understand and grow together. The intertwined birds, though still only a stamp and a dream, had already begun their work. They were stitching together two lives, preparing Alma and Kwesi for a journey that neither could undertake alone, a journey that would lead to love, harmony, and a shared legacy. Alma's reputation as an artist began to spread far and wide in Kumasi, drawing the attention of both casual admirers and serious scholars. Her latest works, infused with the enigmatic symbol of the intertwined birds, carried a resonance that seemed to speak to anyone who encountered them. Among the captivated was Kwesi, whose scholarly interest in Adinkra symbols drew him to her exhibitions. At first, Kwesi approached Alma's work with the meticulous eye of a historian. He was fascinated by the intricate details of her designs and the way she reinterpreted traditional symbols with a modern, expressive twist. But as he lingered over her pieces, he found himself captivated not just by the symbols, but by the stories they seemed to tell. Stories of unity, transformation, and love. One afternoon, Kwesi sought Alma out at her studio, his reserved demeanor hiding a flicker of curiosity. "Your work," he began, holding up a piece that prominently featured the intertwined birds, "is unlike anything I've seen before. The symbolism, where does it come from?" Alma, with her usual playful spark, tilted her head and smiled. "It's inspired by something deeper than just tradition. Sometimes, symbols find you when you need them most." Their conversation that day marked the beginning of a subtle shift.
Piecing together the wisdom of the land. In their debates, a spark would ignite. Playful words danced in the firelight. Each found strength in the other's ways, weaving their lives through the Ashanti haze. Oh, the intertwined birds.
While Kwesi initially sought to understand the academic roots of her art, he found himself drawn to Alma's passion. Her enthusiasm was infectious, her interpretations of the symbols brimming with life and imagination. In turn, Alma grew to appreciate Kwesi's steady and thoughtful perspective. She saw how his deep understanding of history could give her work new layers of meaning. Recognizing this growing connection, Alma proposed a bold idea. "Kwesi," she said one evening, her eyes bright with excitement, "what if we worked on something together? A collection of Adinkra symbols that not only honors tradition but also tells new stories. Your knowledge and my art. What do you think?" Kwesi hesitated for a moment, his analytical mind weighing the proposition. But as he looked at Alma, he realized the collaboration could be an opportunity to bridge their worlds. "All right," he agreed, a small smile breaking his usual seriousness. "Let's give it a try." Their partnership began with long discussions, often punctuated by playful banter. Alma would sketch bold, sweeping designs while Kwesi traced their historical roots, sharing the cultural significance of each symbol. Alma's studio transformed into a lively workshop where tradition met innovation. Alma's vibrant energy filled the space, her movements quick and fluid as she brought each symbol to life with vivid colors and bold strokes. Kwesi, in contrast, worked methodically, poring over old texts and ensuring that their interpretations stayed true to their origins. At first, their approaches clashed. Alma's spontaneity frustrated Kwesi's need for structure, while his meticulousness sometimes stifled her creative flow. But over time, something beautiful happened. Alma began to see the value in Kwesi's patience and attention to detail, while Kwesi found himself loosening his rigid approach, inspired by Alma's boundless creativity. Their collaboration became a dance of balance, each learning from and complementing the other. One evening, as they put the finishing touches on a piece featuring the intertwined bird symbol, Kwesi paused to admire their work. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "these birds, they're us, aren't they? Different, yet somehow in sync." Alma laughed softly, her eyes meeting his. "Maybe Niam had a plan all along," she replied, a hint of warmth in her voice. The project culminated in a collection that left an indelible mark on everyone who saw it. Each piece in the series told a story of resilience, unity, and the beauty of contrasts. The intertwined birds, which had started as a quiet motif in Alma's dream, now stood as the centerpiece of their work, a symbol of their journey together. Their masterpiece was more than just art. It was a testament to what could be achieved when differences were embraced rather than resisted. For Alma and Kwesi, it wasn't just about creating something beautiful, it was about discovering the profound truth of the intertwined birds. Together, they had turned their contrasts into strengths, crafting a legacy that would inspire generations to come. As Alma and Kwesi poured their hearts into their shared project, something profound began to take root, not just in their work, but in their lives. The playful banter that had once underscored their differences now reflected the depth of their connection. Each conversation, each laugh, and even each disagreement brought them closer, revealing a harmony that neither had expected. The intertwined bird symbol, which had first appeared to Alma as a mysterious message from Niam, became the defining motif of their collaboration. It was no longer just an artistic design, but a representation of their journey together, a tale of two contrasting individuals finding strength in their unity. Alma's bold creativity and Kwesi's thoughtful precision complemented each other so seamlessly that their work began to transcend the boundaries of Kumasi. Their pieces, imbued with the spirit of ancient wisdom and the vitality of modern expression, captured the imagination of all who saw them. People from all walks of life marveled at the way their art told stories of love, resilience, and the power of embracing differences. But it wasn't just their artistic success that resonated with the community. It was the way Alma and Kwesi embodied the very ideals they celebrated. Their relationship became a living testament to the proverb Niam had shared in Alma's dream: though gold is precious, unity is even more so. Together, they enriched Kumasi's cultural landscape in ways neither could have accomplished alone. Alma's vibrant Adinkra designs found new depth and meaning through Kwesi's historical narratives, while Kwesi's research became more accessible and alive through Alma's artistry. They were a true partnership, each drawing inspiration and strength from the other. Their work inspired others to see the beauty and diversity and the possibilities that emerged when different perspectives came together. Artists and scholars, young and old, began to view the intertwined bird symbol as more than just a piece of art. It became a beacon of hope and a reminder of the potential for harmony in a world often divided. As the years passed, Alma and Kwesi's love story became woven into the fabric of Kumasi's cultural heritage. Their union, guided by fate and the wisdom of the Adinkra symbols, stood as a reminder that the greatest legacies are built on collaboration, understanding, and love. The intertwined bird symbol, now synonymous with their story, adorned not only their art but also public spaces, celebrations, and even the hearts of those they had touched. It became a timeless testament to the truth that even the most contrasting souls could create something extraordinary when bound by unity and purpose. Alma and Kwesi's journey proved that while gold may glitter, it is the strength found in unity that truly shines, leaving a legacy that transcends time and inspires generations to come.
Piecing together the wisdom of the land. In their debates, a spark would ignite. Playful words danced in the firelight. Each found strength in the other's ways, weaving their lives through the Ashanti haze. Oh, the intertwined birds soaring through time. Two different souls in a perfect rhyme, bound by love, by faith, by grace.
The rain poured mercilessly, drumming against the roof as thunder rumbled in the distance. The police officer standing at the door removed his cap, his face pale with sorrow.
"I'm sorry, Miss Amara,"
he said gently,
"but your parents didn't make it."
Amara's heart stopped.
No, this had to be a mistake.
She stared at the officer, her mind spinning. Just that morning, her mother had kissed her forehead and told her to be good. Her father had promised they would go out for ice cream when they returned. Now they were gone. She wanted to scream, to shake the officer and demand that he takes back his words, but all she could do was sink to the floor, her body trembling as grief swallowed her whole. The days that followed were a blur. Strangers murmured condolences. Black-clad figures moved in and out of her home, whispering about her future. Where would she go?
Who would take her in?
Then Aunt Linda stepped forward.
She will stay with me.
She declared.
She is my blood.
Amara clung to those words like a lifeline. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could still find love and safety in her aunt's home. The first few weeks in Aunt Linda's house were tolerable. The house was small but warm, with walls painted a soft cream and the scent of spices always lingering in the air. Aunt Linda worked long hours, leaving early in the morning and returning late at night. She wasn't affectionate, but she provided food and shelter, and that was enough for Amara. Then she met him, Mr. Gerald. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with piercing eyes that always seemed to linger on her a little too long. At first, she ignored it. He was her aunt's husband after all. Surely, he was just being observant. But then came the touches, light, seemingly accidental brushes of his fingers against her skin. The way he stood too close. The strange, sickening smiles. Amara's stomach twisted whenever she was alone with him. One night, Aunt Linda had to travel for work. Amara was left alone with Mr. Gerald. She tried to keep to herself, staying locked in her small room, but late into the night, she heard his footsteps outside her door. Then a knock. Her hands clenched into fists. She didn't answer. Another knock.
Amara.
His voice was slow, deliberate.
Open the door.
She shut her eyes tightly. Maybe if she ignored him, he would go away. But then the handle turned. Her heart slammed against her chest as she realized the door wasn't locked. The door creaked open, and the darkness of the hallway swallowed her whole. That was the night her nightmare began. Mr. Gerald was a monster. Whenever Aunt Linda left the house, Amara lived in terror. He would grab her wrist too tightly, whisper threats in her ear, and hurt her in ways she could never describe. She wanted to tell Aunt Linda. She tried once. One morning, as her aunt prepared breakfast, Amara stood by the kitchen counter, her lips trembling.
Auntie,
She hesitated, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Aunt Linda turned, stirring a pot of porridge.
What is it, Amara?
Just as she was about to speak, she felt a shadow behind her. Mr. Gerald. His fingers brushed the back of her neck lightly, a silent warning.
Nothing.
She whispered, her voice barely audible. That night, she paid for her almost confession.
You ever tell her?
Mr. Gerald hissed, his fingers tightening around her arm.
And I'll kill you. You and that bastard in your belly.
Amara froze. She hadn't even realized yet, but it was true. She was pregnant, with a child of the man who had destroyed her. Weeks passed, and her stomach began to swell. She tried to hide it, but Aunt Linda was not a fool. One evening, as Amara washed dishes, her aunt's voice sliced through the air.
Amara!
She turned, her breath caught in her throat. Her aunt's eyes, sharp and accusing, roamed over her body, stopping at the unmistakable curve of her belly.
Who is the father?
Amara felt the blood drain from her face. She couldn't say. She couldn't speak. Her lips trembled, but no words came out.
Answer me!
Aunt Linda shouted, slamming a hand on the table.
I can't.
Amara stammered. That was the wrong answer. Aunt Linda's face twisted in disgust.
You shameless girl! You bring disgrace into my home and refuse to even name the father?
Tears welled in Amara's eyes. She wanted to scream the truth, to beg her aunt to protect her. But Mr. Gerald stood in the corner, arms crossed, watching. And she was too afraid.
Get out.
Aunt Linda's voice was cold, final.
Auntie, please.
Amara whispered.
I said get out.
She had no choice. With nothing but a bag of clothes and a heart filled with fear, Amara stepped out into the cold, unforgiving night. Homeless, alone, pregnant, and for the first time in her life, truly abandoned. The night swallowed Amara whole. She walked aimlessly through the streets, the wind biting through her thin clothes. The city was alive. Cars sped by. Laughter echoed from a nearby bar. Neon lights flickered in the distance. But Amara felt like a ghost, unseen, unheard. Her feet ached. Her stomach growled. The baby inside her stirred, as if sensing the fear and exhaustion washing over her. She had nowhere to go. She had no one. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she wrapped her arms around herself, whispering to the life growing within her.
I'm sorry.
She choked.
I don't know how to protect you.
As if in response, the baby kicked. A reminder that she wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She found an old, abandoned building, half-constructed, with crumbling walls and exposed bricks. It wasn't much, but it was shelter. She curled up in a corner, shivering against the night's cold. For the first time, she allowed herself to sob. The days blurred into weeks. Amara begged on the streets, her swollen belly making it harder to move. Some people gave her food, others scoffed at her, muttering about reckless girls who had ruined their lives. She tried to work, but no one wanted to hire a pregnant girl with no experience. Hunger gnawed at her. Some nights, she went to sleep with nothing but water in her stomach. One night, the hunger became unbearable. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. She sat outside a small restaurant, breathing in the scent of sizzling meat and fresh bread. She watched as a man left his plate half-finished and walked away. Her pride screamed at her to stay still, but her body acted on its own. She darted forward, snatching a piece of bread from his plate and shoving it into her mouth. The restaurant owner saw her.
Thief!
He shouted, grabbing her by the wrist. Amara gasped, struggling against his grip.
Please!
She begged.
I'm starving!
His expression hardened.
Not my problem.
Before he could drag her away, a kind-looking woman intervened.
Let her go. She stole from my restaurant.
The woman dug into her purse, pulled out a few bills, and handed them over.
This should cover it.
The man huffed but let Amara go. The woman turned to her, eyes filled with sympathy.
Where's your family?
Gone.
She couldn't say it aloud. The woman sighed.
Come with me.
For a brief moment, Amara thought she had finally found safety. But by morning, the woman was gone, leaving nothing behind but a few coins and a blanket. Amara realized something that day. No one was coming to save her. Months passed. The cold nights grew warmer, but Amara's struggles only worsened. Her belly was huge now, making every step difficult. Then, one night, as she lay on a piece of cardboard in an abandoned shop, a sharp pain shot through her stomach. She gasped, clutching her belly. The pain came again, stronger this time. She was going into labor. Panic seized her. She had no hospital, no doctor, no one to hold her hand. She crawled toward the street, hoping anyone would help.
I was just a shadow, fading in the night, carrying my sorrow, too tired to fight. Every tear that fell, every whispered lie told me I was nothing, left me wondering why. But even when the world tried to break me down, I found a fire, it's burning now.
But the city moved on uncaring. Hours passed. The pain became unbearable. She screamed into the empty night, tears blurring her vision. Then one final push. And silence. For a terrifying second, there was no sound. Then a cry. A tiny, desperate, beautiful cry. Amara sobbed as she lifted the baby into her arms. A girl. Her little girl. She was covered in blood and weak from exhaustion, but none of that mattered. She had won. She had brought life into a world that had tried to destroy her. Tears of joy and pain mixed on her face as she whispered,
Sarah. Your name is Sarah.
And for the first time in a long time, she smiled. While Amara struggled, Aunt Linda's life was far from perfect. Her home was silent. Too silent. She and Mr. Gerald had tried for a baby for years, but nothing. She visited doctor after doctor, swallowing bitter pills, undergoing painful procedures, but still nothing. The irony clawed at her. She had thrown out her own niece, pregnant, abandoned, desperate, only to find herself barren. One day, she overheard neighbors whispering,
"Did you hear? That girl Linda threw out, she had her baby on the streets."
Aunt Linda's fingers tightened around her teacup. She forced herself to ignore it, to ignore the guilt gnawing at her, to ignore the feeling that maybe, just maybe, she had made the worst mistake of her life. Amara and Zara became inseparable. The world was still cruel, but Amara fought harder. She found small jobs, washing clothes, cleaning houses, even selling bottled water on the streets. Every penny went toward feeding Zara. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every missed meal was for her daughter. She was no longer just a girl struggling to survive. She was a mother, and she would never let Zara suffer the way she had. She had lost everything, but in Zara, she had gained something worth more than the world. And so, despite the hardships, despite the pain, she kept going. For Zara. For love. For the future. The sun burned mercilessly overhead as Amara walked through the bustling streets, balancing a tray of bottled water on her head. Zara, now 5 years old, skipped beside her, her tiny fingers clutching the edge of her mother's tattered dress.
Mama, I'm hungry.
The little girl whispered, her voice barely audible over the noise of the market. Amara's heart clenched. She had only managed to sell a few bottles that day, barely enough to buy a small loaf of bread. She smiled weakly and bent down to stroke Zara's cheek.
"We'll eat soon, my love,"
she assured her. Zara nodded, trusting her mother completely. That trust made Amara's chest tighten. The little girl deserved the world, but all she could give her was an incomplete shelter, barely enough food, and a life of struggle. She had failed her.
No.
She couldn't think that way. She had survived this long, and she would keep fighting. For Zara. For their future. That afternoon, as they made their way home, Zara's laughter rang through the air. She was always finding joy in the smallest things, a butterfly, a stray puppy, even the way the wind blew through her tangled curls.
Mama, look. I can run so fast.
She shouted, giggling as she sprinted ahead.
Zara, not too far!
Amara called after her. But before she could take another step, she heard it, the screech of tires, the blaring of a horn, and then a sickening thud. Time seemed to freeze.
Zara!
Amara's heart nearly exploded from her chest as she dropped her tray and ran. Zara's small body lay on the ground, unmoving, beside a sleek black car. The driver, a tall man in a crisp white shirt, had already stepped out, his face filled with shock.
"Oh my God!"
he murmured.
"Is she okay?"
Amara fell to her knees, hands shaking as she touched her daughter's face.
"Zara,"
she whispered, voice breaking. The little girl groaned softly, her eyelids fluttering. She was breathing. She was alive. Tears spilled down Amara's cheeks as relief crashed over her.
I didn't see her.
The man said, his voice laced with guilt.
"Please, let me take her to the hospital."
Amara hesitated. She didn't trust strangers. She didn't trust rich men in expensive cars. But this was Zara. And Zara needed help. So, swallowing her pride, she nodded. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and fresh linen. The beeping of machines filled the air as Amara sat by Zara's bedside, gripping her tiny hand.
"She's going to be fine,"
the doctor assured her.
"Just a mild concussion and a few bruises."
Amara let out a shaky breath.
"Thank you."
She turned to the man, the driver, who had been pacing the room.
"I'm really sorry,"
he said again, running a hand through his neatly combed hair.
"I should have been more careful."
Amara studied him warily. He was handsome, too handsome. The kind of man who belonged in luxury, not in the same world as her and Zara.
What's your name?
She asked.
Jason.
He replied.
Jason Reed.
She nodded, turning her focus back to her daughter. Jason hesitated, then pulled out his wallet.
Look, I know money won't fix this, but let me help.
No.
Amara's voice was firm. Jason frowned.
Why not?
She clenched her fists. She had been mistreated by men. Lied to. Used. She wasn't about to accept charity from another one. Jason sighed.
Okay, but at least let me check on her.
Amara wanted to refuse, but Zara suddenly stirred, blinking up at them with drowsy eyes.
Is that my new friend?
She mumbled. Jason smiled.
Hey there, princess.
Zara beamed sleepily. Amara exhaled. Maybe, just maybe, this man wasn't like the others.
Days passed.
Then weeks. Jason didn't just disappear after the accident. He showed up. Again and again. He brought books for Zara. Took her to the park. Bought her ice cream. And Zara adored him.
Mama, look.
Zara grinned one afternoon, holding up a pink teddy bear Jason had given her.
Uncle Jason got me a new friend.
Amara folded her arms.
Zara, he's not your uncle.
Zara giggled.
Then he's my best friend.
Jason chuckled.
Yes, I've been promoted.
Amara sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose.
Why are you doing this?
Jason shrugged.
I like Zara. She's a great kid.
Amara studied him carefully.
Is that all?
A flicker of something unreadable crossed his face.
Maybe not.
She didn't press further. She didn't want to know. She couldn't afford to. As time went on, Jason's visits became routine. He wasn't just a friend to Zara anymore. He had become a part of their lives. And, somehow, despite all her walls, despite all her pain, Amara found herself looking forward to his visits. The next morning, Jason came again. Zara squealed in delight, running into his arms the moment she saw him.
Uncle Jason. You came.
Jason grinned, tossing her into the air before catching her.
Of course, princess. I wouldn't miss seeing you for the world.
Amara stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching. Jason met her gaze. For a moment, time stilled. There was something in his eyes. Something that made Amara's stomach twist. He set Zara down gently.
Go play, princess.
He said softly.
I need to talk to your mama.
Zara pouted.
You're always talking to Mama. It's boring.
Jason chuckled.
I promise it won't take long.
Zara huffed but ran off, playing with a stray kitten that had wandered near their shelter. Jason turned back to Amara, his smile fading.
Why do you keep pushing me away?
He asked. Amara stiffened.
What?
You heard me.
Jason said, stepping closer.
I've been coming here for weeks. You know I care about Zara, but I also care about you, Amara.
Her breath caught in her throat.
No, 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 no.
She shook her head.
Jason.
I love you.
The words hit her like a blow to the chest.
Her knees felt weak, her heart pounding wildly against her ribs. Jason reached for her hand, his touch gentle.
I don't care about your past. I don't care about where you've been. I only care about where we can go from here.
Amara yanked her hand away, her eyes flashing.
Don't say that.
Why?
Jason frowned.
Because it's true?
Because I don't deserve it.
She snapped, her voice cracking.
I am nothing, Jason. I live in an abandoned building. I sell bottled water to survive. My past is filled with pain and shame. I don't belong in your world.
Jason's jaw clenched.
You belong with me.
Tears burned her eyes.
You don't understand.
Then make me understand.
She turned away, wrapping her arms around herself.
I can't.
Jason exhaled slowly.
You're afraid.
Amara laughed bitterly.
Of course, I'm afraid. I've spent my whole life surviving. People like me don't get fairy tale endings. Jason.
Every tear that fell, every whispered lie told me I was nothing, left me wondering why. But even when the world tried to break me down, I found a fire, it's burning now.
Jason's voice was soft, but firm. For days, Amara avoided Jason. Whenever he came, she found excuses. She was busy. She was tired. She wasn't home. But Jason saw through her lies. One evening, as she returned from the market, Jason was waiting for her. Leaning against his car, arms crossed, watching her with those piercing eyes.
She sighed.
Jason.
No more running, Amara.
Her shoulders tensed. Jason stepped forward, his voice gentle.
Why are you punishing yourself?
Amara swallowed. Because if she let herself love him, it would destroy her. Because if she let herself believe in happiness, she would only end up broken again. Jason sighed.
I don't care how long it takes, Amara. But I won't give up on you.
She stared at him, her heart aching. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to fall into his arms and believe that love wasn't just a cruel illusion. But she couldn't. She wouldn't. So, she whispered the only thing she could.
You should.
And then she walked away, leaving Jason standing there, hurt and confused, and leaving her own heart shattering into pieces.
I've walked through the storm, but I see clearer skies. I was lost, I was torn, but love has healed what once was worn. I'm stronger than before.
That night, Zara curled up beside her mother, her little fingers tracing patterns on Amara's arm.
Mama?
Yes, my love?
Zara hesitated.
Then, in a soft voice, she whispered,
I wish Uncle Jason was my daddy.
Amara's breath caught. Zara looked up at her with innocent, hopeful eyes.
He makes me happy, Mama. And he makes you smile too. Even when you don't want to.
Amara closed her eyes, pain swelling in her chest. She had spent so long convincing herself she wasn't worthy of love. But Zara deserved a family, deserved happiness, deserved a father. And Jason had never given up on them. Slowly, Amara opened her eyes and smiled softly at her daughter.
I think your wish will come true soon.
Zara gasped in delight, hugging her mother tightly. And outside, beneath the silver moon, Jason sat in his car, gripping the steering wheel. He was ready to walk away, to accept that Amara would never let him in. But then, he saw her standing in the doorway, watching him, waiting. His heart pounded. He stepped out, meeting her gaze.
She didn't speak.
She didn't need to, because when he reached for her, she didn't pull away. And as she nodded, silent tears slipping down her cheeks, Jason knew. She had finally chosen him. The night was restless. Amara lay awake, staring at the cracked ceiling of the abandoned building she and Zara called home. Her heart was heavy. Jason knew part of her past, but not all of it. Not the part that haunted her every waking moment. Not the monster who had destroyed her childhood and made her afraid of men. Not the man who still roamed free while she suffered. She turned to her side, watching Zara sleep peacefully. Jason had confessed his love. Zara wanted him as a father. Could she really allow herself to be happy? Or would her past always drag her back into the darkness? The next day, Amara walked through the market, a basket in her hands. She was lost in thought, barely noticing the world around her. And then, a deep voice behind her made her blood run cold.
Well, well, well. Look what we have here.
Her heart stopped. That voice. Him. She turned slowly, her body shaking. And there he was. Her aunt's husband. The man who had abused her. The father of her child. The man who had destroyed her life. He smirked, standing tall, arrogance dripping from every inch of him.
Did you really think you could run forever?
Amara's breath came in short gasps. Not here. Not now. She looked around wildly, but no one seemed to notice her panic. His hand shot out, gripping her wrist tightly.
You better not have told anyone, girl, or I'll finish what I started.
Amara felt her stomach twist. She had never told anyone. Because of fear. Because of his threats. Because of a nightmare that still lived inside her. But this time was different. This time, she wasn't alone. Before she could think of an escape, a voice cut through the air.
Let her go!
Jason. Amara whipped her head around. Jason stood a few feet away, his jaw tight, his hands clenched into fists. His eyes burned with fury. Her aunt's husband laughed.
Who the hell are you?
Jason's voice was deadly calm.
The man who's going to destroy you.
The monster sneered.
She's a lying little whore. You don't know what she's been through. I raised her, fed her, gave her a roof over her head, and this is how she repays me.
Jason took a step forward, his entire body radiating danger.
You abused her. You used her. You took away her innocence. And now, you're going to pay for it.
The man's face darkened.
You can't prove anything.
Jason smirked.
Want to bet?
Before the man could react, Jason pulled out his phone and pressed a button. A recording played. Every single word. The threats. The confession. Everything. Amara gasped. Jason had recorded the entire conversation. The man's face drained of color. Jason tilted his head.
I have enough evidence to make sure you rot in prison for the rest of your life.
Panic flashed in the monster's eyes.
You wouldn't dare.
Jason's smile was cold.
Watch me.
In the next instant, police sirens blared. Amara turned, shocked to see officers approaching fast. Jason had already called them. The monster lunged, trying to run, but Jason grabbed him by the collar and threw him onto the ground. The police swarmed in, pinning him down. Amara watched in stunned silence as the man who had haunted her nightmares was finally taken away in handcuffs. Her aunt, who had just arrived at the scene, gasped in horror.
What's going on?
And then she heard the truth. All of it. Her hands trembled. She turned to Amara, her eyes filled with guilt and disbelief.
Oh my God!
Her voice broke.
Amara,
Amara took a deep breath. She had dreamed of this moment. Of revenge. Of justice. But now that it was here, all she felt was emptiness. Her aunt fell to her knees, sobbing.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know.
Amara stared at her. This was the woman who had turned her back on her, who had thrown her onto the streets. And yet, she was also a woman who had been deceived. Amara swallowed hard.
The harm is already done.
She whispered.
But men like him deserve to rot in jail.
Her aunt nodded, her body trembling. Amara didn't say another word. She simply turned away. And for the first time in her life, she felt free. That night, Amara sat outside her shelter, staring at the sky. Jason sat beside her, silent for a long moment. Then he spoke.
I love you, Amara.
She closed her eyes, feeling the weight of those words. She had spent her life believing she wasn't worthy of love. But Jason had shattered every wall, every fear, every doubt. He had fought for her, for Zara, for their future. She turned to him, her eyes glistening with tears.
I don't know how to love someone like you,
she admitted softly. Jason smiled, reaching for her hand.
Then let me show you.
She hesitated. Then she nodded, and Jason kissed her.
I drown in the rain, but you held me close. You showed me the truth, that love can rebuild all the pieces we lose.
Not with urgency, not with desperation, but with love. And for the first time, Amara let herself believe in happiness. The next morning, Zara sat on Jason's lap, playing with his fingers. She suddenly looked up and grinned.
Uncle Jason?
Yeah, princess?
She beamed.
Are you my daddy now?
Jason glanced at Amara. She blushed, but nodded. Jason turned back to Zara, his smile warm.
Yeah, princess. I am.
Yay! I have a daddy.
Amara watched them, her heart full for the first time in years.
She had survived.
She had fought. And now, finally, she had found love. And a home. Forever.
When the past tries to pull me down, I hear your voice, it's my saving sound. I'm stronger than before, I'm not afraid to rise. I walk through the storm, but I see clearer skies. I was lost, I was torn, but love has healed what once was worn. I'm stronger than before.